Hey guys, so I haven't done a video on Shakespeare yet, and being that he is very popular in the world of both, well, I guess more plays than prose, but prose and poetry, I figured it was about time that I brought this out. This is a book on Shakespeare's sonnets. Since today is a poem day, I figured I would break out a few of his sonnets. This book in particular has all, oh gosh, 100 and something, 100 and how many? 154. So, Shakespeare wrote 154 sonnets in his lifetime, and this one has all of them like pretty much back to back, like as soon as one finishes another begins status. So there you go. A lot of these, in fact I'm pretty sure most of these sonnets are like love sonnets, and most of them are addressed to two specific characters who are people who Shakespeare, at least it's rumored that Shakespeare was probably involved with, but who are not people who he married. So the woman Shakespeare married, Anne Hathaway, is not the woman being addressed in these poems. There is, I think they call one woman the Dark Lady, and there is a man referred to as either the fair lord or the lovely boy or something to that effect. And because of that, it's thought that Shakespeare was bisexual, but of course in these poems it's not, I guess, fully obvious for the ones that are being written about the lad or lord or whatever, that they were written about a boy, just because, I mean, that was the time. So I'm going to start with the most well-known of these sonnets, which is sonnet number 18, also referred to by its first line. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometimes declined, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest. Nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. So, as I mentioned, this is probably the most well-known sonnet of Shakespeare's, and this is one of those that it's thought was written for the young boy or the fair lord or whatever you want to call him. And there are lots of rumors as to who that person might be. Some people thought he was the Earl, I think his name is Earl Henry. Some people thought it was written for, I forget the name, but some other lord or nobleman. But anyway, I think it's interesting to compare this to the poems that were written about the other character, the Dark Lady. So, because it's hard to tell. Again, like, you could read this and it could easily be about a woman. And again, given the time, it wasn't like he was going to be all super out about it if it was about a man, but a lot of themes in this that run very similar to the themes in Shakespeare's other poems. So, though he does his typical, thou art more lovely and more temperate, and he talks about summer and all that, which is sort of typical for a love poem, to compare the one you love to nature's beauty. But then he mentions the line, and every fair from fair sometimes declines. And especially in his later sonnets, Shakespeare does talk a lot about the fact that beauty fades. And he reacts to this in many ways. He either specifically points out that, someday you're going to be old and ugly, or he'll say that even if you're externally, aging, then I still think you'll be beautiful. Or in this case, he says, even after you die, you will be eternalized in this poem. And I think it's interesting because, again, this is the one that he's most well known for. So long as men can breathe, their eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. That couplet at the end there. Again, granted, I haven't read all of his sonnets, but it almost feels like he knew that this was going to become popular. So I find that interesting. Now, the next one I'm going to read is another fairly popular one. So this one is sonnet number 130, a lot later on, and this is one of the ones that's about the dark lady, and you can again sort of tell this one's a little bit more obviously about a woman. My mistress's eyes are nothing like the sun. Coral is far more red than her lips red. If snow be white, why then her breasts are dun. If hairs be wires, black wires grow on her head. I have seen roses damasked, red and white, but no such roses see I in her cheeks, and in some perfumes there is more delight than in the breath that from my mistress reeks. I love to hear her speak, yet well I know that music hath a far more pleasing sound. I grant I never saw a goddess go, my mistress when she walks treads on the ground. And yet by heaven I think my love is rare, as any she belied with false compare. So this is interesting because, especially reading it right after Shall I Compare Thee to a Summer's Day, here he is ridiculing that sort of love poem, rather than comparing the woman to all these things like the sun and roses and coral and all these things that are very cliche. He's saying, oh, she's nothing like that. There are no roses in her cheeks. Her hair is black and wiry. Her lips are not coral red, but in the end he says that, you know what? But my love is, I still love her, and at the end, and yet by heaven I think my love as rare as any she belied with false compare. Basically saying that my love for her is no less than if I was comparing her to all of these various things like roses and coral and the sun. And it's very interesting. It's a very brutally honest sort of way to talk about someone, and I am curious as to how this dark lady would have responded to hearing or reading this sonnet about her that, paints her in not a very pretty light, but again, it's obvious he loves her anyway. And I mean, he's written so many poems about this lady that one saying that she's not particularly pretty, I doubt would be too unflattering. And again, it's hard to say for sure, but this could easily go in with the whole aging thing. If by this point this dark lady had been, growing old enough that this was sort of signs of her beauty slipping, the fact that her cheeks aren't as rosy could easily be that she's growing paler with age. The fact that her hair is black and wiry rather than all silky smooth or anything like that. But I just really like the honesty in that one, and it's very, very much no BS, I guess. This next one is, let's see, 138? That one. I'm not very good at reading Roman numerals, so forgive me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's 138. Which is, I guess, a little less well known, but I still really like it. So there we go. Another one about the Dark Lady, because I tend to like the poems he's written about the Dark Lady. I don't know why. Those are the ones that I like, though. When my love swears that she is made of truth, I do believe her, though I know she lies, that she might think me some untutored youth, unlearned in the world's false subtleties, thus vainly thinking that she thinks me young, although she knows my days are past the best. Simply I credit her false-speaking tongue, on both sides thus is simple truth suppressed. But wherefore says she not she is unjust, and wherefore say not I that I am old? O love's best habit is in seeming trust, and age in love loves not to have years told. Therefore I lie with her, and she with me, and in our faults by lies we flattered be. So this one, again, is similar in its sort of not always very pretty, like almost not quite as harsh, but not so pretty reality of love. And I like this one because it shows a little bit more of the wordplay that Shakespeare was known for, particularly with the whole lies and lies. So, when my love swears that she is made of truth, I do believe her, though I know she lies. And later on, because it's talking about, telling the truth versus lying. And then, that's one of the big themes, at least within this sonnet. And then later on it says, therefore I lie with her and she with me. So not only are they lying, as in not telling the truth together, but they physically lie together. And again, that's a little bit more on his sexual puns. But let's see. And he talks about trust, because trust kind of goes along with truth. And, even though they are not always completely honest and perfect with each other, they trust each other. So that's, I think, really beautiful. And he has a bit about, again, youth, where that she might think me some untutored youth, which again leads me to believe that this dark lady was far older than he was. But again, we don't know who she was. But this may be part of his pseudo-obsession, sort of obsession, with the idea of youth and age, especially in a lot of the Dark Lady's poems. He talks a lot about that. There's this distinct contrast in the way that Shakespeare talks about the Dark Lady and the way he talks about the Fair Lord. The Fair Lord seems, again, shall I compare thee to a summer's day, very bright, sunny, youthful, whereas the Dark Lady seems to be, in the previous poem he called her his mistress, which is another reason why one would believe that she was not, what was her name, Anne Hathaway, who he was married to. as well as the fact that I believe I read somewhere that that descriptor did not fit Anne Hathaway at all. So, again, an older woman who he fell in love with and had an affair with. But there we go. I think that's all I can really say about this one right now. But yeah, it's very interesting, and because I think it's, again, Shall I Compare Thee to a Summer's Day and other sort of similar poems that become really well known within Shakespeare, which is part of why I wanted to do a couple of the slightly lesser known ones with the Dark Lady, because I think those are a little bit more interesting and different, again, from modern day love poems. So yeah, again, there are 154 of these, so I don't know, maybe in the future I could break out a couple more. If you guys have favorites of Shakespeare sonnets, if there are ones that I didn't read today that you particularly like, I can think of a couple, but I admittedly don't remember the numbers off the top of my head. So, either by number or by the first line, at the back of this book they have this, and I think it's really cool, alphabetical list of first lines. So the first line and then what page it's on. So even if you don't know the name of it, you can pick it out by first line and find it in this, which I really like. But yeah, let me know what your favorite Shakespeare sonnet is, if you have one, particularly if it's not one that I read, because I want to look through this and read more. So yeah, maybe we can learn a little bit more about this mysterious dark lady and the fair lord. But here we go. And that's it for today. I'll see you guys next time.